Who are they? And what do you know about Shaolin Temple in Henan Province, China? Part 1. We continue to tell a stage of the life of Kung Fu in the Shaolin Temple. Here are the answers to the most frequently asked questions about the Shaolin Temple. What is the Shaolin Temple? The Shaolin Temple is a Buddhist temple in Henan Province, China, known as the cradle of Kung Fu. It was founded in the 5th century by the Indian Chinese monk Bodhidharma and has a long history in the field of Buddhist spirituality and Kung Fu training. Where is the Shaolin Temple located? The Shaolin Temple is located in Henan Province, China, near the city of Dengfeng. What is the history of the Shaolin Temple? The Shaolin Temple has a long and fascinating history dating back to the 5th century. It was founded by the Indian Chinese monk Bodhidharma and quickly developed into one of the most well-known Buddhist monasteries in China. Over the centuries, the temple has undergone many changes in significance and has had both highs and lows in its history. What kind of Kung Fu is taught at the Shaolin Temple? The Shaolin Temple teaches various types of Kung Fu including Shaolin Kung Fu, Tai Chi, and Qigong. Who founded the Shaolin Temple? The Shaolin Temple was founded in the 5th century by the Indian Chinese monk Bodhidharma. What is the significance of the Shaolin Temple in Chinese culture? The Shaolin Temple holds significant importance in Chinese culture as the birthplace of Kung Fu and one of the most famous Buddhist monasteries in China. It also has a great impact on Chinese history, culture, and spirituality. Inscribed as a key national Buddhism monastery in 1983, Shaolin Temple, or Shaolin Monastery of Zhengzhou enjoys a great reputation for over 1,000 years since Tang Dynasty, 618 to 907. It is the birthplace for both the famous martial arts of Shaolin and the Chan sect of Chinese Buddhism. Approved as a 5A tourist attraction in 2007, the Shaolin Temple set a background against a Wuru Peak, and enjoys a natural barrier by right of surrounded multi-peaked mountains and beautiful sceneries. The temple is so named as Shaolin just because it is seated in the hinterland of Shaoshi Mount, and hides in the thick forest called as Lin in Chinese. A renowned temple in China with a history of over 1,500 years, Shaolin Temple additionally boasts for 11 historical architectures which are World Cultural Heritages approved by UNESCO. Shaolin Kung Fu, called Shaolin Wushu or Shaolin Quan Shaolin, is one of the oldest, largest, and most famous styles of Wushu, or Kung Fu of Chan Buddhism. It combines Chan philosophy and martial arts. It was developed in the Shaolin Temple in Henan Province, Greater China during its 1,500-year history. Popular sayings in Chinese folklore related to this practice include all martial arts under heaven originated from Shaolin and Shaolin Kung Fu is the best under heaven, indicating the influence of Shaolin Kung Fu among martial arts. The name Shaolin is also used as a brand for the so-called external styles of Kung Fu. Many styles in southern and northern China use the name Shaolin. Chinese historical records, like spring and autumn annals of Wu and Yu, the bibliographies in the Book of the Han Dynasty, the records of the Grand Historian, and other sources document the existence of martial arts in China for thousands of years. For example, the Chinese martial art of wrestling, Shui Jiao, predates the establishment of Shaolin Temple by several centuries. Since Chinese monasteries were large landed estates that made a considerable regular income, monks required some form of protection. Historical discoveries indicate that, even before the establishment of Shaolin Temple, monks had been armed and also practiced martial arts. In 1784, the boxing classic, Essential Boxing Methods, made the earliest extant reference to the Shaolin Monastery as Chinese boxing's place of origin. This is, however, a misconception, but even the fact that such a mistake could be made helps to show the historical importance of Shaolin Kung Fu. In 495 AD, Shaolin Temple was built among the Song Mountains in Henan Province. The first monk who preached Buddhism there was the monk named Buddhabhadra, simply called Batua by the Chinese. There are historical records that Batua's first Chinese disciples, Huiguang and Sengqiu, both had exceptional martial skills. For example, Sengqiu's skill with the tin staff and empty hand strikes is even documented in the Chinese Buddhist canon. Bodhidharma is traditionally credited as the transmitter of Chan Buddhism to China, and regarded as its first Chinese patriarch. In Japan, he is known as Daruma. The idea that Bodhidharma founded martial arts at the Shaolin Temple was spread in the 20th century. However, this idea came from a debunked apocryphal 17th century legend that claimed Bodhidharma taught the monks philosophies of Chan Buddhism, in which the monks were then able to use these philosophies to create their own combat techniques of Shaolin Kung Fu. The idea of Bodhidharma influencing Shaolin boxing is based on a Qigong manual written during the 17th century. This is when a Taoist with the pen name Purple Coagulation Man of the Way wrote the Sin is Changing Classic in 1624, but claimed to have discovered it. The first of two prefaces of the manual traces this succession from Bodhidharma to the Chinese general Li Jing via a chain of Buddhist saints and martial heroes. P165. The work itself is full of anachronistic mistakes and even includes a popular character from Chinese fiction, the Jiran Kobushi bearded hero, as a lineage master. Scholar officials as far back as the Qing dynasty have taken note of these mistakes. The scholar Ling Tin Kong, 1757–1809, described the author as an ignorant village master. Even then, the association of Bodhidharma with martial arts only became widespread as a result of the 1904–1907 serialization of the novel The Travels of Lao Tiesin in Illustrated Fiction magazine. One of the most recently invented and familiar of the Shaolin historical narratives is a story that claims that the Indian monk Bodhidharma, the supposed founder of Chinese Chan, Zen, Buddhism, introduced boxing into the monastery as a form of exercise around AD. This story first appeared in a popular novel, The Travels of Lao Tsan, published as a series in a literary magazine in 1907. This story was quickly picked up by others and spread rapidly through publication in a popular contemporary boxing manual, Secrets of Shaolin Boxing Methods, and the first Chinese physical culture history published in 1919. As a result, it has enjoyed vast oral circulation and is one of the most sacred of the narratives shared within Chinese and Chinese-derived martial arts. That this story is clearly a 20th century invention is confirmed by writings going back at least 250 years earlier, which mention both Bodhidharma and martial arts but make no connection between the two. During the short period of the Sui dynasty, 581–618, the building blocks of Shaolin Kung Fu took an official form, and Shaolin monks began to create fighting systems of their own. The 18 methods of Luohan with a strong Buddhist flavor were practiced by Shaolin monks since this time, which was later used to create more advanced Shaolin martial arts. Shaolin monks had developed very powerful martial skills, and this showed itself towards the end of the Sui dynasty. Like most dynastic changes, the end of the Sui dynasty was a time of upheaval and contention for the throne. The oldest evidence of Shaolin participation in combat is a stele from 728 that attests to two occasions, a defense of the monastery from bandits around 610 and their role in the defeat of Wang Shichong at the Battle of Hulao in 621. Wang Shichong declared himself emperor. He controlled the territory of Zhang and the ancient capital of Luoyang. Overlooking Luoyang on Mount Huanyuan was the Cypress Valley Estate, which had served as the site of a fort during the Jin and a commandery during the Southern Qi. Emperor Wen of Sui had bestowed the estate on a nearby monastery called Shaolin for its monks to farm, but Wang Shichong, realizing its strategic value, seized the estate and there placed troops and a signal tower, as well as establishing a prefecture called Yuanzhou. Furthermore, he had assembled an army at Luoyang to march on the Shaolin Temple itself. The monks of Shaolin allied with Wang's enemy, Li Shimin, and took back the Cypress Valley estate, defeating Wang's troops and capturing his nephew Renzi. Without the fort at Cypress Valley, there was nothing to keep Li Shimin from marching on Luoyang after his defeat of Wang's ally Dojianda at the Battle of Hulao, forcing Wang Shichong to surrender. Li Shimin's father was the first Tang emperor and Shimin himself became its second. Thereafter Shaolin enjoyed the royal patronage of the Tang. Though the Shaolin monastery stele of 728 attests to these incidents in 610 and 621 when the monks engaged in combat, it does not allude to martial training in the monastery, or to any fighting technique in which its monks specialized. Nor do any other sources from the Tang, Song, and Yuan periods allude to military training at the temple. According to Mayer Shahar, this is explained by a confluence of the late Ming fashion for military encyclopedias and, more importantly, the conscription of civilian irregulars, including monks, as a result of Ming military decline in the 16th century. Stele and documentary evidence shows the monks historically worshipped the Bodhisattva Vajrapani's Kanara king form as the progenitor of their staff and bare hand fighting styles. From the 8th to the 15th centuries, no extant source documents Shaolin participation in combat. Then the 16th and 17th centuries see at least 40 extant sources attest that, not only did monks of Shaolin practice martial arts, but martial practice had become such an integral element of Shaolin monastic life that the monks felt the need to justify it by creating new Buddhist lore. References to Shaolin martial arts appear in various literary genres of the late Ming, the epitaphs of Shaolin warrior monks, martial arts manuals, military encyclopedias, historical writings, travelogues, fiction, and even poetry. These sources, in contrast to those from the Tang dynasty period, refer to Shaolin methods of combat unarmed, with the spear, and with the weapon that was the forte of the Shaolin monks and for which they had become famous, the staff. By the mid-16th century, military experts from all over Ming China were traveling to Shaolin to study its fighting techniques. Around 1560, Yu Dao traveled to Shaolin Monastery to see for himself its monks' fighting techniques, but found them disappointing. Yu returned to the south with two monks, Zongqing and Putsong, whom he taught the use of the staff over the next 3 years, after which Zongqing and Putsong returned to Shaolin Monastery and taught their brother monks what they had learned. Martial arts historian Tang Hao traced the Shaolin staff-style Five Tigers interception to Yu's teachings. I stop at this point today. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and keep exploring the world's incredible stories. Soon we will publish Part 2. Thank you for watching.